The panel we have up here, I'm really happy to say, are three of the true climate patriots. And I want you to think about that term. These guys are climate patriots in the same way that in the Revolutionary War, we had patriots who would pop over the stone walls and take shots at the redcoats while they were walking down the street. In the same way, these gentlemen are doing exactly the same thing. We are taking shots directly at the fossil fuel industry, directly at the high carbon intensive industries, and that collectively, with 1 million solar or climate patriots out there, ultimately will be successful. So I'm really thrilled that we have three of them here today, and I want to introduce them very quickly. On the far right is Steve Katsaros. He's founder of a company called Nokero. This means no kerosene, for those of you who are looking for the acronym behind it. He'd invented the first solar light bulb in an effort to provide light and electrification to the 1.3 billion people that live without electricity around the world. Since launching his company in 2010, they've delivered over 1 million light bulbs to over 120 different countries. Absolutely fantastic accomplishment, and he's really just scratching the surface. For those of you who registered, there is a box in your AREDAY bag with the latest product from Steve's company. Really exciting that he contributed that to everybody. Thank you, Steve. Next to him is Johnny Weiss. Johnny is co-founder of the Solar Energy International organization right here in Colorado. Johnny has more than 40 years experience teaching practical applications of renewable energy technologies, including solar, wind, and hydropower. And finally, on my right, immediate right, is John Perlin. He's an author, lecturer, and consultant. He's written 4 major books on the solar energy industry and forestry, including the book which you've heard a little bit about here at AREDAY, which is Let It Shine, the 6,000 years of solar energy. 6,000 years story of solar energy. You're right, I skipped the story part. My apologies. Great, okay. But first, before we get going, and a little bit of the panel, what I want to do is going to be much more of a dialogue rather than presentations. We're going to talk a little bit about where we are now, how we got here, where we're going, some of the challenges we face, how we're going to get over those challenges, and ultimately make sure that solar is a significant part of our energy mix going forward. But as we were getting together as a panel, we thought it's really important for us to get to know the audience as well, and because we can learn a lot by just asking you one simple question. And I was here about 3 years ago, I guess, or so, and I asked this question, and it was a very, I thought, telling with respect to the results that we received. So this is a participatory question. I'm going to need people to raise their hands if you could. So the first question, there's only 2 questions. First question is, how many people here have solar on your home today? Okay, not bad. That's probably about 5 or 6 more than 3 years ago. The next question is, how many people want to have solar on your home today? Okay, that's the exact same response I got 3 years ago. But what's a little disappointing is the fact that we only had about 10 or 15 people raise their hands with respect to having solar today. And some of the things you're going to learn about is the fact that the cost of solar in those 3 years has come down to you, the consumer, by more than 50%. And that the options for not coming forward with a big cash payment in the beginning exist in 12 different states and continue to spread around the country. It's the largest source of residential financing in the country, either through a lease or a power purchase agreement. So I want you all to think of yourselves as climate patriots and to do your part, whatever it is with your career and your passion. All of that is extremely important. But also think about taking the next step. So when I'm back here next year, not in 3 years, next year, we have twice as many or 3 times as many hands that are raised and saying, yeah, I put solar on my roof because I'm a climate patriot and it's saving me money, it's good business, and I decided to do it for all of the right reasons. Okay.
Ron?
Yes?
You forgot to ask who uses solar energy for a fuel, and I only bike, so I use solar energy for a fuel.
I'll ask that question at next year's panel. Okay, let's dive in. I've got 2 slides, if I could, real quick, if you could pop them up there. I just wanted to show you a little bit what's happened in the solar industry. Okay, this is a graph that goes back to 2003 and shows out through 2014 and then 2 years of projections out through 2016. So you can see this year we're going to do about 7,000 megawatts of solar in the United States, which is truly remarkable. If you look just 10 years ago, we did 52 megawatts. In 10 years, we've gone from 52 megawatts to 7,000 megawatts, 2 orders of magnitude of growth, which is absolutely spectacular. The result, though, is we're still only about 1% of electricity generation in this country, which is shameful since this is by far our largest source of domestic energy in this country. Let me show you the second slide on what's happened and the economic growth in this country. This slide shows you the 6,000 plus companies in the United States that operate in the solar industry. There's more than 150,000 people employed by the solar industry in the US today. That's up from about 15,000 employees back 10 years ago. So just an incredible growth, a great economic success story, and in large part that came about during the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, and 2010. So a great news story about what's happened so far, and I'm going to start and open it up to the panel and just say, how did we get here? You know, what is the most significant event in the last couple of years that allowed us, and if you go back to that previous slide, and then we'll just leave it there for the rest of the conversation. What enabled this to happen? Why are we seeing this hockey stick kind of growth? What's the most important thing that's happened? Steve, let's start with you.
Well, I feel like I'm underqualified for this panel, but it's an honor to be here, so thank you. I think that in our sector, we just see this confluence of, you know, this is a level of power generation far beyond what we do, but in our sector, we see the confluence of solar panels just becoming much, much more affordable. Our battery technology is much more reliable, and we've seen LEDs increase in about double efficiency in the last 4 years on a commercially accessible basis. So,
and so your product, has it dropped in cost from a manufacturing perspective in the last
it's just improved in performance. We've kept the cost the same.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Johnny, in the last couple of years, last 10 years, what's been the most significant development?
Well, I think the most significant thing is that the spell has been broken. Randy Udall said it, and it's not just the great buzz I'm getting from my 11th AREDAY. I think it's really happening. Randy said that he had hoped it was breaking. He thought this intoxication we've had with fossil fuels for the last century we're starting to see the consequences of that. And I think that the spell may indeed be perhaps being broken, you know. And I think that's resulted now in a mainstreaming of solar energy. And in my work in education, community colleges are doing this work now. We've got industry at an altogether different place than ever before. And I think that's what's really exciting, is that we're moving forward.
And just to bore down just a little bit, what do you think are the reasons for that? Is it the BP oil spill? Is it the fact that you're seeing solar actually advertised on the radio, and you've got now 6,000 companies around, and everybody knows somebody who works in solar? What do you think are some of the reasons why that change has occurred?
I think it's all the above, but I also think it's some of the softer reasons too. When I get to work with the First Nations of our country and of our continent, they're helping a spiritual quality. I don't think it's just the technology. The technology is remarkable. Yeah. Photovoltaics, the direct conversion of sunlight to electricity. And I think it's happening on the public awareness level too. I'd like to ask my colleagues on the panel, are there as many people saying photovoltaics as there used to be? I think there's less. Yeah. And I'm encouraged by that.
Excellent. So education and vocabulary and becoming familiar with the technology, and that's certainly what we've seen on the corporate side, right? Where Walmart, 6 years ago installed their first solar system. Today they have several hundred, and they're planning to do every single building in the United States. And the reason why is they're familiar with the technology. They're seeing how it works. And again, it's that vocabulary. And John, a big part of your book is really designed to give people in the United States that vocabulary of solar. And it goes back and looks at 6,000 years, but I'm going to really hold you to this last 10 years and say, John, what's the biggest development in the last 10 years that has allowed this growth to occur?
Well, actually, I'm not going to allow you to hold me to 10 years, because Newton made a great statement where he said people were praising him as the greatest scientist ever. And he said, the only reason I'm able to do this is because I stand on the shoulders of giants. So we have to know what happened in the past that allowed us to make this great leap forward. And it was a very orderly progression where niche to niche photovoltaics succeeded, and that gave more and more technical people and more of the popular, the public, the confidence to reach where we are now. So we can't forget, like the 60 years ago when they invented, this is the 60th anniversary of the silicon solar cell, the first solar cell capable of generating sufficient, converting enough sunlight to produce real electricity. I mean, that serves the foundation. We wouldn't be here if not for that invention. And then the first satellite that went up using solar cells convinced the military, who have the greatest legacy of solar in our country, of the significance of photovoltaics. And then the terrestrial remote uses that taught engineers in their journals that solar energy by 1985 had become the technology of choice for remote power. So it went just like any other power source, just like oil. Oil at first wasn't used for cars. It was used as a lubricant. So there's a step-by-step niche, and now we're seeing the ultimate place of photovoltaics, and that's on everybody's rooftops.
One thing I also want to make sure I point out, and it's in John's book, and something that you should all at least be familiar, is there's more than just photovoltaics in the solar kind of industry, right? There's solar heating and cooling, so panels that are used to heat up water for your house for cooking and cleaning. It was a dominant solar technology in the 70s and the 80s, but certainly exists today, and countries like China have millions deployed, and countries like Spain and Israel actually mandate new home construction include solar heating and cooling systems. But there's also concentrating solar power, where you use parabolic mirrors or a power tower in order to generate very high temperatures, run a standard power block, or use it for industrial heat. So very important technology developments that have occurred alongside photovoltaics that have certainly made them more economic today. Let's talk a little bit about where we're going and where we see ourselves in the future. So today we're at AREDAY 11th anniversary. Solar is a little bit more than 1% of our electricity generated. Susan Riley did a really good job in kind of talking about the forecast future of the wind industry being 20% by 2020. If we look ahead and look at our day, the 20th anniversary, so literally 9-10 years from now, where's solar going to be? And maybe answer it from each individual perspective. So Steve, maybe answer it from kind of the rural electrification and African.
You know, where we work, 95, 90, maybe even 99% of our products are distributed outside of the U.S. and they're manufactured outside of the U.S. And so when I answer this, it's not from a U.S. context while we might grow into this market, but just 5 years ago, our total sector, with which we have peers, I don't say competitors, we have a healthy industry, was only $17 million. Last year it was $200 million. Next year it will be $500 million. And it'll be $1 billion in just 3 years from now. So to give you a sense of what that means, we have the United Nations with their Sustainable Energy for All commitments that are accelerating our growth. We have a Global Off-Grid Lighting Association, which we created. And so things are really starting to ramp up. And the total addressable market is huge when you're talking about 1.3 billion, 1 out of every 5 people in the world without electricity, right? And another billion to 2 billion with such inferior service that it's almost like not having electricity. So, you know, from an international perspective, that's how I'd answer.
Great growth opportunity for sure.
Yes.
Johnny?
Great. I think we're headed toward more mainstreaming of all the renewables, and I'm glad you talked about more than just photovoltaics, more than just PV. It's the right thing to do. It's what's available now. I was excited by the new innovations that are coming along, but you know, I talked to people about it, and there's still some people waiting. It's like I think it's like waiting for a faster, cheaper, more powerful, more compact computer. You know, if we need computers, if we need cell phones, I mean, we've got plenty of good technology right now. So I see us becoming more mainstream. I think the other half of our panel's question is about the timing. And I found a quote with the help of my friend from a quote from Ziggy Marley. Ziggy writes, maybe not in the time that we expect or want, But the work we're doing is not just for now, it's for all time.
That's true. Absolutely. John.
Well, the you see on Wall Street. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You go to Yahoo Finance, and all they're talking about. You see on Wall Street. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You go to Yahoo Finance, and all they're talking about, and that has the paradox that quantum mechanics has. That is both the most simple and yet the most complex of all the solar technologies, and is the space age marvel that's also the cleanest form of electricity we have. And so it's, as Bell Labs said in 1956, the transistor and its brother, the solar cell, will go hand in hand to change the way we live in the world.
All right, I need a number, John.
Okay, you
Give
want
me
a
a number. I want a number.
Okay,
1%
you want a
now.
number.
Give me a number.
I would say because of the exponential growth, I would say in 10 years, 15% of the electricity in the United States will be generated by photovoltaics.
Fantastic. That's what I'm looking for. All right, vision and energy. I sat down with Susan last night. We were chatting a little bit about this, and she was telling me a little bit about the 20%, and she said, "What is solar going to be in that time frame?" And I said, "Well, 21% at least." So, I mean, we're definitely going to continue to grow. And one of the reasons why, when you look at this curve, what I didn't put on here is some of the significant changes that have happened, not necessarily just in the technology, but really in the financing. So I mentioned a little bit some of your options as a homeowner. Previously, what they were is you could write a check for $25,000 and put the solar system up on your roof. Well, that was great, but that certainly wasn't achievable for the vast number of Americans that exist today, that exist in the United States. And so what we've seen in the last literally 3 years is a number of different options. First, you can lease the system, and that lease payment is guaranteed to be somewhere between 10 and almost 20% less than what you'd be paying the utility for the same amount of electricity. So you have an instant savings from day one with no money up front. Pretty remarkable. The second option is a power purchase agreement, and this is what's used primarily in the commercial markets, but basically you're entering into the contract for the group that owns the solar system, and you're paying them for the electricity that it generates. Again, using structured long-term financing, you're going to get a rate lower than what you're paying the utility today. From day one, instant savings. The third is solar loans. This is something we've been working on for literally a decade, to try to get banks to understand the technology so that they're willing, in the same structure as a home equity line of credit, to give you a long-term, low-interest loan to finance your solar. And you certainly see that today. There's a lot of other various technology, financing mechanisms that are coming out, and so we won't go into all of them, but rather to say that the options for you as a homeowner are immensely different than they ever have been before. And the companies that are in this space are continuing to grow. NRG and obviously Solar City, but so many of the other energy companies are getting into the space. You're now seeing utilities embrace solar. Arizona Public Service just announced that they are putting a residential program in place for low-income housing. And so when you start to look at the available roof space, and for those of you who flew in to Aspen from someplace else, when you're landing back home, look out the window as you're landing, and you'll see the vast acreage of buildings, flat roofs that don't have solar. They're just baking in the sun. That's the potential. And so what we've seen is the corporate embracing of solar, the costs come down, the financing mechanisms continue to change. All of that is going to change everything. And that's why I'll say 21% rather than 20%.
I would say even more than 21%, because solar plus storage will create a technological revolution that only was seen when Faraday invented the first means of producing electricity.
And you're exactly right. Storage is a game changer for sure, but as you can imagine, there are significant challenges that we face in order to grow this industry, regardless if it's Steve's business in developing countries or if it's a solar industry right here at home. We're at war with utilities over net metering in a dozen states, and that's only going to continue to grow. We talked a little bit about the rollback of the RPS in Ohio and the challenges we face from the Koch brothers, ALEC, and others. So let's talk about the challenges, some of the hurdles that we face. Steve, when you look forward and you say 1.3 billion people, what are some of the hurdles that you face as a manufacturer and developer?
I mean, we have infinite opportunity, right, in these emerging markets, but we have lack of rule of law. We have no access to credit, and we're talking about people who live on less than $2 a day. So when we have a product that retails for $8, or in the case of what you all received, it's a $17 product, there's an investment there. It takes time to realize that full investment. So, we have a lot of problems with the financing side, and I think that's one of the things that's really unlocked this year. Behavior change is another huge part of it. I think that cartoons are very useful for behavior change in a non-paternal kind of way of talking down to people, but making sure that they understand what's at stake. Youth are closer to being able to accept change. And now that I'm rambling just a little bit, I'll say that one of the shining spots is the intellectual property systems in China are greatly improving. I quit the practice of patent law to start Nocaro, and we have successfully sued factories. We've shut them down, and we've collected damages in my bank account in China.
Wow.
And that comes from my background in patent law, and it really helps to be able to leverage the financial benefits of being in China manufacturing products, but yet having a cost point that you can distribute them around the world, even if they're to customers that make $2 a day.
And then who buys your product? And how can the audience here get involved and support
Well,
it?
our website is just nocaro for nokerosene.com, and a purchase there really helps us because we can realize our mission more about bringing them into the emerging markets. Half of our units of the million units have been purchased by entities that have actually gifted them to communities. In the largest case, it was in Indonesia, where 275,000 of these were distributed. Those created 1 million hours of light last night, the night before that, and into the future as well.
Fantastic. Hurdles. Johnny, you know a lot about the hurdles we face in all aspects of the industry. Tell me what you think the biggest one is for our growth.
Well, before we get to hurdles, let me just mention, too, community solar, which I think is an opportunity that you mentioned. You rattled off a bunch of them, and the different technologies, wind and everything else, too, all renewables. But in the Roaring Fork Valley has been and continues to be a pioneer in community solar. My local bank doesn't have to put it on its own roof or on its own property. It can buy a share of community solar. And I think that's an opportunity for all of us, too, that may have solar access issues, not having wonderful trees shading our roofs. We can do this a lot of different ways. And I think the Roaring Fork Valley, check it out. It's just a great other opportunity for us. I'll let you move to hurdles.
Okay, well, the biggest hurdle is the hurdle that anything new faces. People would rather fail with something they know than rather take a chance on something they might actually succeed on. And it's sort of like the new physics, where when Einstein first introduced the idea of the photon, which we depend on for how photovoltaics operate, everybody said, only one person in the world believed with Einstein that there was a photon. 21 years later, he was the Nobel Prize for that concept. And the Nobel Prize for photovoltaics will be 25% of the United States electrical power.
I love it. I love it. One last question, then we'll open it up to the audience, so think about what your question might be. So a big part of what we talked about in the beginning was that there's a general acceptance of solar, and when we do our polling, we almost always find at least 92% of the public supports greater use and development of solar in the United States. I mean, my gosh, it's more popular than puppy dogs and ice cream, for God's sakes. But 92%, no industry has 92% popularity. But yet, how do we get the message out? How do we convince people around the United States, not just to go solar, but to support solar? Because as with every other energy industry or other energy sector, policy is critical to the success of the solar industry. You'll hear about the PTC with wind, absolutely essential. Same thing for natural gas and for oil and for coal, and it's the ITC for solar, as well as so many state policies. So the question I'd ask you guys is, how do we amp it up, right? How do we get the word out? How do we get 1 million voices for solar in this country?
Rowan, you asked that question, and very masterfully, last year to Bill Clinton when you interviewed him, and I was on the edge of my seat. I couldn't wait to hear what he said, and what he said was, "Oh, gee, you just got to keep doing what you're doing. You have to make corporations more responsible. You have to keep getting the cost of solar down. We're on the right track. Let's just get after it." He said, "Just keep doing it."
But we're impatient. We want to address climate change immediately. Steve, what do you think?
Look, I think that appropriate things that people can use to discuss, no longer is this something that's on a roof, to talk about solar. You can put this in your pocket and you can engage your neighbor and your neighbor's neighbor about what is this stuff sustainability? What is renewable? What is a photovoltaic? And just be like, you can show it. So that's a selfless promotion here. But anyways, I think that also children are a huge part of this. Programming that gets into STEM activities, there's just no preconceived notions about what's appropriate. Is it appropriate to run coal-fired power plants or what? But
well, and certainly everybody has one now, so there's no reason why we can't be doing it. And you're right. One of the I guess the pitfalls or the challenges we have is the fact we put solar panels on the roof where nobody can see. You're right. One of the I guess the
and then they would guilt trip their parents.
I think he's exactly right. It's the youth that puts the pressure on the adults and then the conscious decisions to purchase.
Educate the youth with Steve's light in my book, and there you go.
I love it. You're going to make a children's version, right?
Exactly.
Okay. We unfortunately don't have time for questions, but I do want to wrap up with just a couple of quick thoughts, all right? Which is, we all really do have an opportunity to participate in the solar industry as individuals, either as an investor in solar companies, certainly becoming educated on the language of solar and being able to educate others about it, certainly by installing solar on our own house, on our businesses, on our parents' houses, et cetera, but really taking an active role in making sure that solar is successful here in the country and in the United States. And one of the things I just want to alert you to, there's two pieces. We're going to be rolling out a campaign this fall and for the next couple of years. It's all focused on federal policy about expanding the use of solar in this country. It's going to be focused a little bit on tax policy, but the tax policy right now is what's driving the use of solar in America today. And so you look at that curve, our first tax credits were put in place in 2006, and it was 2009 when they became, let's say, longer term, 8 years. And you can see that rapid growth that's occurred in light of that. So I would ask all of you to become part of it, because we are going to try to create 1 million voices for solar, and we're going to need each one of you to be active, both in joining us, but in getting the word out, being active on social media, and helping to spread the word. So with that, please help me thank the 3 panelists for their great comments, and enjoy the rest of your time here at AREI-AREDAY.